Parashat Noach Tufshi and Pai Hai Besiyate Deshmaya. The Parashat starts off Eile Toildes Noach, and the Torah that describes us who Noach was. Noach ish tzadik tomim hoya b'deroisav. Esu v'alekim es alech Noach. So the Torah mentions two miles about Noach. He was a tzaddik and a tomim. Now a few psikim later, the first pasuk after Sheni starts Vayomer Hashem leNoach Boi ato v'chal beischo el hateva ki oischa ra'isi tzaddik lefonai badoir hazeh. I saw you as a tzaddik badoir hazeh. And Rashi asks over there the question that the Gemara in Eirev also asks, why doesn't it say over here tzaddik tomim like it says in the beginning of the parsha, tzaddik tomim hoya b'deroisav? And Rashi brings down what the Gemara answers, Mikan she'oimre miktzat shevoche shalodom befonov v'kuloi shaloi befonov. Hello. So Rashi explains that we say befonov of a person, you only say miktzat shevoche, part of his shvach. How do you say shvach in English?
Praise.
Of his praise. Part of his praise. V'kiloi shaloi befonov. Shaloi befonov, you could say the whole shvach. Now, I once heard that the Leif Simcha of Gur, Zeichet Tzadik Levrucha, asked, if that's the reason, like we said till now, so actually it's not miktzah shevochoi shaloi befonov, it's half machtzah shevochoi. Because when the Torah describes Noach not befonov, it says about him tzadik tomim. That's 2 miles. And when Hashem speaks to Noach alone, he tells him ki oischa ra'isi tzadik lefonai. He mentions 1 mile tzadik. So from tzadik tomim, only tzadik is 50%. So why do Chazal say we only say miktzas? Miktzas usually means a small portion, less than 50%. 50% is called machzis. So why do they say miktzas? It should have said machzis shevochoi shaloi befonov, and befonov you say kuloi, the ganze, the whole. Why do they say miktzas? And the Rav Simcha of Gur answered that actually it's only a miktzas, a portion. Why? Because when the Torah describes Noach at the beginning of the parsha, he gives about Noach 3 miles. Noach ish tzadik tomim. Ish is also a mile. He was a man. He was a man. He was a mensch. Sometimes you could be a tzaddik and a tomim, but you're not a ish. The first mile is, we see, I once heard that someone asked the Shebina Rav, when you look for a shidduch, what's the most important thing to find in a bocher? If you have a girl and you look for a shidduch. He said that in the Torah we see one thing. The pasuk says that the father of the girl comes and he says, "As biti nasati la ishazeh." I gave him to this person. He's a person. It doesn't say la talmud chacham hazeh. It says la ishazeh. You have to be a ish. You have to be a man, a person. Manners. Manners is called manners because it's a lashon man. Manners. You have to be a man. You have to be a ish. Once the Shebina Rav answered for someone that you have to need by shidduchim 3 things. The first thing, you should have midas toivus. The second thing, you should have good midas. And the third thing is also midas toivus. That you need to find by a bocher and a shidduch. So when the Torah says about Noach, ish, tzadik, tomim, it's 3 miles. Ish, tzadik, and tomim. And when Hashem speaks to him, he only mentions tzadik. So it's only a miktzas. It's only a portion. It's only a third. That's what the Rav Simcha answered. 1 second. Puri chatu adonoi, alayayni melech u'olam, shahakol niu b'dvuroi.
Amen.
I think that you could also say a little bit different. Even if we say that the only miles are tzadik tomim, you could also say it, that it's only a miktzah. So why? Because when a person is a tzaddik, or a person is a tomim, it's a mile. Tzaddik is a mile, tomim is a mile. When you have both of them together, it's not like tzaddik and tomim. Each one of these miles makes the other mile a stronger mile. A tzaddik that's also a tomim, so the tmimis gives in a shvach and a koyach, and it makes stronger and bigger the mile of tzaddik. And the same thing when you're a tzaddik and also a tomim, one has a ashpoah on the other mile. So by being a tzaddik tomim together, it's not like saying Tzaddik is 50% and Tomim is 50%. Tzaddik Tomim together is such a shleimus that Tzaddik alone is not half, it's less than half, it's only a portion. Because Tzaddik Tomim together is not that you're having the Milah of Tzaddik and the Milah of Tomim, you're also having a shleimus, both of them together. One has a Ashpur on the other. So if you're also this and also this, so that's why when the Torah describes Noach, it says about him, Tzaddik Tomim, that's a shleimus picture, a person that's also a Tzaddik and also a Tomim. The Tmimis lights into the Mile of Tzaddik, and the Ashpur and the Mile of Tzaddik lights in the Mile of Tomim. And when you only say Tomim alone, that's less than half. Now, in the name of the Holy Beis Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo, the one that wrote the Shulchan Aruch, they say a gewaldige nice pshat. It's different than the Gemara. He said pshat to answer the question why in the beginning of the parasha it says Tzaddik Tomim, and later on it only says Tzaddik. He says like this: Noach lived in 2 generations. The first generation that he lived was Doira Mabel. Now Doira Mabel, the pasuk brings down, there was a lot of chomos, lenechtem gizardinam elu ala gezel, but that was the nechtem gizardinam. But the main thing that the pasuk mentions is vatishoches oretz lefnei olekim hashchose. And Rashi says loshen erva. And Rashi says even more than that, kehishchis kol bosor afile behem echaye ve'oiv niskakin l'she'enon minon. It was mamish gefährlich. That was the hashchose. And that's why Hashem says, I have to be mashchis the whole world. Hineni mashchisom es ha'oretz. Now, someone that's on the other side of the hashchose, how do you call him? You call him a tzaddik. Yosef is tzaddik. Yosef is midi is tzaddik. That's the opposite of hashchose. Yosef was Oymed ben Esoy and Eishetz Betifa. And that's why Yosef is a tzaddik. Now, if Noach was different than the whole door, so how do you say his Meile? You say Noach is a tzaddik. Everybody is Ashchose, and he is a tzaddik. Noach lived in another generation. Doira Floge. The end of the parasha. Nimrod. Doira Floge, what was their chet? They were koifrim b'Hashem. They wanted to be chaz v'shulam. Nimrod, Gibor Tzayid, Lifnei Hashem. They wanted to go chaz v'shulam against Hashem. Now, hello. How do you call someone that's the opposite of a Kfire B'Hashem, the opposite of a Emuna B'Hashem? He is considered a Tomim. Tomim tia im Hashem alekecho. Rashi says, es halachim oi betamimes, es etzapeloi, v'lesach kerachru asidois. Rashi parshas vei, kol ma shebo alecho kabel betamimes. Tamimes with Hashem. So now the Beis Yosef explains, and it says Gevaldik. When the Torah says in the beginning of the parsha, the biography about Noach, the pasuk says, Eile Toldus Noach. So the biography of Noach is like this: Noach ish tzaddik tomim hoya b'doirosav. If you speak about both doiris, both generations, in Doira Mabel he was tzaddik, and Doira Floge he was tomim. He lived in 2 generations. Always he was on the other side. He wasn't like all other people, he was on the other side. So when it refers to Doira Mabel, his mile is considered by being different than everyone, that he's a tzaddik. And in Doira Flug, his mile is by being a tomim. Now when Hashem speaks to Noach and he tells him, come into the teva, ki oischora isi tzaddik lefonai b'doira zeh. When he speaks about Doira Zeh, this generation, your Mile is tzaddik. Because in this generation that the chet is Ashchose, so on the other side means being a tzaddik. So when Hashem speaks to Noach about Doira Zeh, I want to be mashchis, the Doira Mabel, and I want to save you. Why? Because you're a tzaddik, you're different than all of them. But when the Torah describes Noach about his whole life, so the Torah says, b'meshech his life, he was a tzaddik and a tomim. Always he was on the other side. He didn't go after, how do you call it, the roiv, how most people were doing. He was on the other side. So he was a tzaddik and a tomim, with the roiv self, in both generations. And Badoy Razeh, when Hashem speaks to you about this generation, he calls him a tzaddik. Because in this generation, Ismail was a tzaddik. You want to ask something? You could.
No, I saw today that Rabbi Nachman L'chut was saying that the reason it's called tzaddik also is because the tzaddik is given his halach im Hashem. The Hashem gives the power to the tzaddik to be mamtek adinim. So he's called tzaddik in the beginning because Hashem wanted him also to be mamtek adinim. He was ruining the world. He knew he was going to destroy the world. He wanted to show Noach what it means to be a tzaddik. He wasn't able to do it, so he lost that and then became the tamim. Because the purpose of the tzaddik is to be mamtik adin and hold over door.
The truth is that that's why the Mabel, we say in the Haftorah of this week's Parsha, the Haftorah is in Yeshaya, and the Haftorah says over there, Ki mei Noach zoisli, asher nishbati ma'avoir mei Noach oid al oretz, kei nishbati mikzoif alayich imig arbach. So the Mabel is called mei Noach. And the reason is, Chazal say, why is the Mabel called mei Noach? Pashtus, because it was in the time of Noach. The mei Noach. But the Pashtus, you call the Mabel Noach's water. Why is it called Noach's water? Chazal say, Hoyu loy le'espal al doiroi veloy bikesh. He should have davened for his door, and he didn't do that, so the Mabel is called on his name, Mei Noach. And that's why it says, Moshe Rabbeinu was a Gilgal of Noach. That's what the Ariya Kudish says. There's a lot of Chazal, Noach and Moshe. Even one of the remuzim that they bring is that in Parshas Truma, the Parsha ends v'chol yizdos achotzer nechoishes, and it starts next Parsha v'ato tetzave. So they bring down, I think, from the Chidu or maybe from Reb Shamshon Master that Sheis was also Moshe was the Gilgal of Sheis, and Sheis' neshama went into Noach, and then it was Moshe. So he says like this: Nechoishes is oisius Noach Sheis. The whole yizdos achotzer nechoishes. That's the end of Truma. And va'ato tetzave is Moshe va'ato. So nechoishes va'ato, Noach sheis va'ato, you're all one neshama. Now, Moshe was mesaken the chet of Noach because Moshe was the opposite. Noach only was worried about himself. Right. I'm going to be saved, and my children are going to be saved, and he didn't daven for the door. It seems that if he would daven, it would help. How would it help? Probably it would have made that the Oilim should do tshiva. If he would daven for them, it would have helped that they should do tshiva, and then they would be saved. But he didn't daven for his door, and that's why the Mabel is called Mei Noach. Moshe Rabbeinu had such mesiras nefesh after the chet to Eigel. Hashem tells him, I want to destroy Chaz v'Shalom Klal Yisrael, and I'm going to leave you. Ve'asa oischa legoy gadol. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I don't know. Mecheini no mesifrucha shekesaftu. He's willing to go for mesiras nefesh. So the Ariya Kudish quotes, Mecheini is the same letters as Mei Noach. The reason why the Mabel was called Mei Noach, and now Moshe Rabbeinu was mesaken by Mecheini. I am so. You want to make me for a big door? Adarabe, Mecheini mesifrucha shekesaftu. I just worry for Klal Yisrael. The Parsha, after Noach was in the Taiva, and after the Mabel finished, and Noach wanted to know if he could go out, it says that Noach sent first the Yoine, and another time he sent the Yoine. When the Yoine came back with Al Isaiah's Torah Befil, a leaf of an olive tree, Torah Befil, so Noach knew, Kikali Amayim Ala Oretz. And then it says, Vayihi ba'achaz v'sheish meyet shana, it was 601 years, L'chaye Noach, it was the first month, the first day of the first month. The earth became dry. He allowed himself to take off the cover of the teva because he knew there was no more water. He doesn't have to be afraid. And he saw that it's dried. I want to say a nice idea about this pasuk. There's a shul in Ir Atika, in the old city. They call it Feres Yisrael. It was a shul that's destroyed. It was destroyed when the Turkish, I think, fought with the Russian, and that was that the soldiers were standing at this shul because it was the highest shul in the old city. If you have the old pictures of the old city, you could see this shul with a kippah and 12 windows around. Yeah.
It's not the Korva, it's on the other side.
Yeah, it's opposite.
They're rebuilding it now.
They're rebuilding it now. It's opposite the Kosel. This shul was bought, the Shetach was bought by the Heilige Yerushaner. The Holy Yerushaner Rebbe, he bought it. It was an auction. And the Tsar Nikolai wanted very much to buy this area because he knew how holy this place is, and he was a big clipper. The Tsar Nikolai was a big clipper. The Holy Yerushaner had a gewaltige Melchama with him, Melchamas Kodesh. He was he was how do you say, he was in Tvise by the Tsar of Nikolai, the holy regional. He was there for 22 months, and they wanted to sentence him, Chaz v'Shalom, for a Gzar Din Mise. In the end, he was released, and he flew to Sadigura, that's in Austria, and then the Russians asked Austria to give him back to deport back the holy regional to Russian, and then they didn't deport him. He stayed in Sadigura, the Heilige Regional. Now, when he wanted to buy this and he couldn't buy because the Holy Regional bought it, he then bought the Migrash Arusim. He bought that instead. Now, the Holy Regional told his Chassidim, he had the big Chassid over here, Nissenbach. That was his name. There's a street on his name, Nissenbach. He told him that he should buy it for whichever amount they're going to ask for, he should buy it, because all tefillahs of Klal Yisrael go through this place. It's against the Mokkam HaMikdash, it's Mamish Keneged, so the tefillahs go through this place. Now they're rebuilding the shul. Tiferes Yisrael, they call it Nissenbach Shul, because he was the Rosh HaKol that built it, Nissenbach Shul. I always quote that the Shem Shmuel brings down, he's the son of the Avnei Nezer, the Sochchever. He brings down that he heard from his father, the Avnei Nezer, that the Avnei Nezer said in the name of his Shver, his father-in-law, the Kotzker Rebbe, that the Kotzker Rebbe spoke about the Heilige Rishon, and he said, I'm wondering how the Holy Rishon is not afraid to go out and declare war. Begolu, how do you call it in English, Begolu?
Open.
Public. A public fight against the Tsar Nikolai. This Tsar is such a strong klippe that in order to fight such a klippe, you have to do it so besheket, so batzneya, so hidden, that even a malach and a tzaraf shouldn't know that you're fighting him. And how does the Holy Rishna go out so begolu? But the Rishna did go out against him, and that's how he had the koyach first to capture him. He should be by him at Tvise for 22 months, then he was released, and then he flew. And then, when he bought this area, so they said that the Tsar Nikolai was nervous, and he was screaming, and he said, it's already the second time that he's being matzliach to win me. First he flew from Russian, and now he also bought this place. It's a gewaltige Mokem Kodesh, this shul, Tiferes Yisrael. Now, it was bought in the Tkifa of the Heilige Rishon, but it was built in the Tkifa of his son, of Sadiger. Rabbi Avram Yanke from Sadiger, he was the son of the Holy Rishon, and he sent a lot of money to build it. Now, the king, Franz Joseph, he was the king of Austria, could be Franz Joseph, yeah. He came to visit over here in Eretz Yisrael. Now, when he came to visit, one of the places that they took him was to the Jewish quarter in Iro Atika. And one of the nicest places was to show him this shul. The shul of Nissenbach was the middle of building then, it was very nice. Now, the shul was already built, the walls, but the ceiling wasn't yet finished because they didn't have money to finish it. Now, the King Franz Joseph came in, and so he asked the Rosh HaKol Nissenbach, why isn't there a ceiling? He was a clever Jew. So he said in Deutsch, he said, the Synagoge hat ausgetein das Hute fahren König. Meaning to say, the synagogue, the shul, took off the hat for the king. Because when he took off the hat, that was a siman of Achnua. Yeah, there's a king, you have to give him the kavod, kvod amaliche. So he right away answered, the synagogue took off his hat for the king. He liked very much this answer. He right away took out a check and he wrote a nice amount to finish the ceiling. Lamaise, Nissenbach, the Rosh HaKolah didn't want to use the money to finish the ceiling of such a holy shul. They had to use the money, they didn't want to give it back. It could be Darkei Shalom, the Malchus. So they used this money on the ground floor, they were still making the toilets. So they used this money for making the toilets. Money of a goy they used for the toilets. But that was a story with the King Franz Joseph. So I thought, maybe we could say also over here. Noach, in the Tkifa that the Mabel was going on, the whole world was like, even the Mazolas didn't work. Chama, Levon, Oyid Mazolas. Rashi explains afterwards that when the Torah says that no more there's going to be a Mabel, yeah? And Hashem says, Yoim v'laylo lo yishboisi, everything is going to be mesider. So Rashi quotes, because the Tkifa of the Mabel, lo oisev oid Va'oisef lekal oida su adomo, oid kol yemei ha'oretz. So Rashi says that the reason was that in the Tkife, that the Mabel was nothing, Miklal, sheshofsu kol yemoi samabel, sholeshim shu amazolis. The mazolis weren't meshamish, v'lenikir b'yoyim ve'in laylu. The whole Tkife outside, there was no nikir if it's yoyim or if it's layla. So, in other words, there was no world outside. It was tov v'vo. The only place there was a world was in the Taiva. All the Malachayim were there. Anything that was only in the Taiva. So, this pasuk says it was Berishon be'echad lachodesh. The first month, the first day of the Chodesh. Rashi brings down Reb Lezer and Reb Shia, if the first month means Tishre or Nisan. According to Reb Lezer, it means Tishre. So the first day of Tishre means Rosh Hashanah. So it's Rosh Hashanah. What's Rosh Hashanah? Malchus. Imru lefonai Malchus. Kedei shetamluchuni aleichem, to be Mamlech Hashem. So what does Noach do? He's in the Taiva. And he wants to be Mamlech Hashem on the whole Bria. And he knows, the whole Bria is over here by me and the Taiva. How does he do it? Vayosa Noach es michsei ha-Teiva. He takes off the cover of the Teiva, and now he's Mamlech Da'ibishte. The Teiva takes off his hat for Hashem, Berishon be'echad lachodesh, and that's how you're Mamlech Hashem on the whole world. You're Mamlech Hashem on the whole Taiva. And Taka, we see a mitzvah for Rosh Hashanah, we remind by the Zechroinus, v'gam es Noach ba'ahava zacharto, v'atifkedei b'dvar yeshiv v'rachamim, Zechroinus. Because Noach, he was the one that was in his Tkife, he was Mamlech Hashem, so we remind the Schis of Noach, v'yishkre lekim es Noach, v'skol ha'teiv, v'skol ha'ba'im, v'achayv, that they were together with him in the Taiva. There was a gewaltige story that once the Heilige Abterov, the Chisa Yegen Aleinu, was together with the Savrainer Rov, and also was with them the Lanzeter Guen. His name was Reb Aryeh Leibish. He wrote a Sefer Geviris Aryeh. Afterwards, he was Rav in Keshenov. So some call him the Lanzeter, some call him the Rebbe of Keshenov. And when they were sitting together with another few tzaddikim, the holy Abteruv asked the Keshenov Rebbe, the Lanzeter tzaddik.
This is when the Abterov was the Rav in Mezbush already?
Yeah. I don't know when it was. Could be when it was in Mezbish, could be when it was, he was in 4 places, Kol Besov, Abte, Yasa, Mezbish. So it was, he told him to say a Pesach Devar Torah. Now, he said it was in Parshas Vaychi, I think, and he said like this, that in Parshas Vaychi, when the brothers of Yosef come to him and they want him to ask forgiveness for what they did to him, they come and they tell him like this. They say, Ono, Sono Pesha Achechu, Bias Moichel our Pesha, V'chatosam our Chet, Kiroga Malicha, we did to you something bad, V'ato, Sono Lefesha Avde Elekei Yovicho. Bias Moichel, forgive us the Pesha of the Avde Elekei Yovicho. The servants, the Avodim of Elekei Yovicho. He said like this. We know that the Merkava has Dalet Raglei Merkava. We see in Yeshaya, in Yecheskel, Dalet Chayes Merkava. What are the names of the 4 Chayes of the Merkava? Aryeh, Nesher, Kruv, and Adam. A tzura of Aryeh, of a Nesher, of Kruv, and Adam. Now, the Gemara says in Chagige that in the beginning it was a tzura of a Shoir, and afterwards Yecheskel Bikesh Rachmim, and he changed it, it should be a tzura of a Kruv. So said the Geviris Aryeh, the tzaddik, like this. In the beginning it was Shoir, it was a remez on Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef is Bechinat Shoir. B'choir Shoir Yodar Loi, Yosef is Bechinat Shoir. That was in the beginning. Afterwards they changed it for a Kriv. He said like this before. When was Yosef Zoich that his tzira should be one of the tziras of the Ragla Markova? When he was Oymed ben Esoim from Eshet Potifar. He became... That was when it became, his tzira should be chokik by the Kisa Kovet. So he said like this, Ono is Rosh Tevis Aryeh, Nesher, Adam. That's Ono. Sono is Rosh Tevis Shoir, Aryeh, Nesher, Adam. Sono. Yeah. He said like this, Ono. Before you had this Nesoyan, there was only Aryeh, Nesher, Adam. After you were Oymed ben Esoyan, Sono, you became that your tzira should be on the Merkava, Shoir Aryeh Nesher Adam. So that's why. Forgive us, Sono, the Fesha Because in the end, because of us, you were zoiche that your tzira should become on the Kisei HaKoved. And that's why they finish. Sono lefesha avdei Elokei avicha. He says Elokei, I say Elokei, but it's with a hey. Elokei Rosh Tevis, I lav ha-yoime. If not for this day, avicha Rosh Tevis, Kamo Yosef Ike Beshuke. This is a known Mama Chazal that Chazal say on Rav Yosef, that Rav Yosef said on Yom Tov Shviyas, that he wants to make an Egla Tilse, he wanted to make a nice, good feast, the covered Yom Tov Shviyas, and he said, why? Because today we were Zoichet to Kabbalas HaTorah, and for not this day, with what would I be different than other Yosefs that are around in the streets? Ilav HaYoim, if not for this day Yom Tov Shviyas, Kama Yosef Ike B'Shika, I wouldn't be anything different than them. So that's what the Gemara quotes Legabe Shviyas. But he quoted is that Yosef HaTzadik, Ilav HaYoim, if not that we would have sold you, and you would have gone down to Mitzrayim, and you would have the Nesoyot Eishes Patifar, Kama Yosef Ike B'Shikir. What would be your specialty? Now you were Oymed Ben Nesoyan, and that's why Sono, Shoyer Arya Nesher Adam. And the Abturuv liked it very much. At Kedekach, that he said, I assume that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he created this Keshenever Rebbe, he took earth from Har Sinai, and from that earth, he created the Keshenever Tzadik. That was what he said. The Abteruv. The Savrain Ruv was sitting over there, and he didn't like it. What bothered him? It bothered him. Miilech, you want to say Rosh Tevis. You take a word Elokei. Elokei refers to Hashem. Avdei Elokei Uvichu. And you make it Rosh Tevis. Ilav HaYoime. He didn't like it. He said, why do you take Shaimes of Hashem and it's not considered Chaz V'Shulam? The Keshenever Rebbe did see this Remez in Pasuk, but the Savrain Ruv didn't like it. And when he made like, about this, the Abtru was very disappointed. And he turned to the Savrain Ruv and he told him, Tzavla Beischa. That means write Savua for your shtib, because write Savua for your house, because it's finished. And everybody got like shivered. And even the Keshenever Rebbe started begging Abtru that he should be a moichel, because he doesn't want that a person should be nanash because of him. After all, because of him, he's going to be punished. He's going to get an oynish. And all other Rabbanim over there. In the end, the Abtru said, you know what? I'm willing to forgive for the Savrain Ruv for saying what he said, but in return, he has to give us a Dvar Torah from himself, something nice. So the Savrain Ruv said, in Parashat Noach, we see like this. Hashem tells Noach, he should make a taiva. And what are the midos of the taiva? What are the measurements of the taiva? 300 amme is the oirech ha-taiva. 50 is the width. The height is 30. And then, vel amot techaleno milamala. Why? And what would have been if the taiva would be 400 amme or 290, and the width would be 45, 60. Why dafke those measurements? He said like this. Everything in the Tzad HaTumah has to have a little unique of the Kedusha. Otherwise, it has no existence. The Tumah alone can't exist on this world. It has to have a shtickle unique of the Kedusha. And the truth is, if we speak about this Sforim HaKadoshim, it says, how could a person do a sin? When a person does an Aveira, what gives koyach for the bechlal of the metzias of an Aveira? It should have an existence. It's against Ratzon Hashem. And the answer is, gewaldig.
In the sin itself.
Because in the sin, there's a meglichkeit, there's a chetimtze, he has the opportunity to do tshiva, and when he does tshuva mahave, it turns into schiois. So that's the unique of the kedusha that could be in the chet, because Hashem gives him, while he does it, the opportunity to do tshiva. Now, says the Savrain Ruv, the Noach refers to the Noach HaKadmoini. Mekor HaKlippe, Noach, he was the one that made Chava should eat from the Eitz Hadas. The oisius of the bad oisius of Noach is the ches. The Shin and the Nian have a unique from Kedisha. And he brings even a nice remez on that. You know that by a Noach, where is the place where the poison comes out? Between his teeth, there's a hole, and when he bites in, from that hole comes out the poison. It's called the Chazal Arsoi Bein Shinov. The Eres, the poison, is Bein Shinov. So he says Noach is Shein and Nian. What's the ois that's between the Shein and Nian? That's the Ches. That's the Eres. That's the poison. Arsoi is the Ches, Bein Shinov. Now there's a Malach, the Samach Mem, a bad Malach. But he can't be in ganzen bad because he needs a unique of the Kedisha. His name is Samach Mem Aleph Lamed. Like every Malach has Aleph Lamed. Refuel, Gavriel, Michuel, Uriel. So he is also Samach Mem Aleph Lamed. Aleph Lamed is from the Kedusha. Samach Mem is from the Tzad Hara. Leider in the Tkif of the Dor HaMabel, it was Kimola Ha'oretz Chomos. What's Chomos? The Ches of Noach and Samach Mem. It was only the Ra. Hamas. You have to destroy Hamas. Hineni mashchisa mesuoretz. We have to destroy them. Hashem Yazor. Hashem Shalel. B'siyata d'shmaya. It was mol uretz chumos. It was only the Ches and the Samach Mem. And so the world has no schoskiem. It has no existence. And there were the other letters. And Hashem wanted it to be matzl. Hashem tells to Noach like this: make it taive. The length is 300. That's the Shein of Noach. Chamishim Amo Rochba. The width is 50. That's the Nian of Noach. Shloishim Amo Koimosa. The height is 30. That's the Lamed of Samach Mem. Vel Amo Techalenu Milmala 1 Amo. That's the Aleph of Samach Mem. So you're going to have in the Teva the Aleph Lamed of Samach Mem, the Shein of Noach. That's all the good letters that they have a unique from the Kedisha, and that's where there's going to stay a kiyum, an existence, and the whole world is going to be mushchas, because the world is full of chomas. But the Abteruv, the Oiv Yisrael, heard this. He sent him a glass of wine for the Keshen of Rebbe, and he said, L'chaim, it's mamish, sweet, v'rechu, toivim, and nechoichim, and he was like this, he was apologized for whatever he did. And we have to know, if you mentioned before the names of the Maluchim, when a person sits and he learns, the Sefer HaChaim, that's the brother of the Maral Miprag, brings down in the Sefer HaChaim, that when a person learns Gemara, Gavriel, Michael, Raphael, and Uriel, that's the Rosh Hashanah of Gemara. Gavriel, Michael, Raphael, and Uriel. Every night we say by Krishma, B'Shem Hashem Elokai Yisrael, Mimini Michuel, Mismoili Gavriel, Melefunai, no, Mimini Michuel, Mismoili Gavriel, Melefunai, Oiriel, Mechoyre Refuel, V'Adroish Shchenas Kai. When a person learns, that's how it goes. Hashem is Yoishe V'Shoyni Kenegdoi. Hashem is Malam Toir Lam Yisrael. He learns with every Jew, where you learn, with every Yid. And those Maluchim take him around when he learns Gemara. He brings the pasuk Choyna Malach Hashem Soviv Li'Yadeiov Vayachaltzeim. The Malachai Hashem take him around when he learns Vayachaltzeim. That don't let anyone get next to him because he's now sitting and learning the Gemara. Befrat Gemara. Reb Shlomo Kaline says that Gemara is Meloshen Gumre. In Aramic, Gumre means coals. Coals are considered Gumre. Yeah. Coals. Yeah. How do you call it? Coil now. Coals. Why? Because Gemara has a koyach to burn out all the bad that could be in a person's heart, in his moyach, wherever, in all of his middas. The alikoy devara ke'esh. Befrat Gemara, it burns out everything. It's Gemara. It's Meloshen Gimre. It burns out the Ra. So the Sefer HaChaim says, when you learn, you're surrounded with all of these Maluchim. Now we see in this week's Parsha, in the end of the Parsha, when he speaks about Nimrod, and he says Nimrod was a Gibor Tzayid Lifnei Hashem, and he made the whole Doira Fluge, Chadra Shalom, to be against Hashem. It says, Vati Reishis Mamlachtoi Bovel. He started off his kingdom in Bovel. Vati Reishis Mamlachtoi Bovel. So the Sefer Oil HaShomayim of Rameir from Abte, he brings in Parshas Kisovoi an interesting word. He says, Vati Reishis Mamlachtoi. The first thing, if you want to be Mekabel on yourself, Malchus Shomayim, is Bovel, Talmud Bavli. Vati Reishis Mamlachtoi. What should be the first thing? We're now after the Shoshana. We were busy Malchias, Shetam Lechuni Aleichem. Yeah, we're busy Malchias, and afterwards Yom HaKudesh, Yom Tefsikis. All of this now we have to start the year. We started the year, Mietz Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Parshas Bereishis. But the Reishis has to be Bovel. A Kviyas a Talmud Bavli. Dafa Yoimi, Omed Yoimi. Even some that learn Be'in, a Shtikele Gemara, but every day you have to learn a little bit. I once saw in a Sefer, Birchas Avruam. It was a Sefer that was printed, Shanas Shi and Yid Beis. That was 470 years ago. It's from Rabbi Avrum Tribus, this Sefer. He brings down what he heard from his father, Reb Shloime Tribus, that his father was a Talmud of the Marik. The Marik is the known Chivas Marik, Merayin Rav Reb Yosef Kolon, one of the biggest Gedoylei Achroinim from the first generation, maybe even from the Rishonim, the Bes Yosef, brings him down the lot, Chivas Marik. That his father, Reb Shloime Tribus, told him, I remember my Rebbe, the Holy Marik, he was a Gu and Oilam. He was busy answering Chivas for the whole world. And he was a big Rav in the whole Galilas. He was, every Shaila came to his desk. They waited for his answer. Sometimes he knew in the beginning of the day that he's going to have today a very hectic day. Very busy day with so many things that he has to be part of it. But he didn't want that it should pass by a day without Torah. So he made upon himself the Holy Marik that he started off such a day with learning at least 2-3 Shuras Gemara. He learned a few Shiras Gemara, and at night before Kriya Shema, he learned again 2-3 Shiras Gemara. It's gewaldig. You know, you speak about a Gua like the Marik, that he knew the whole Shas by heart, the whole Shulchan Aruch. The Marik, the Bes Yosef, quotes him a lot. One of the biggest Gedoylei Achroinim. No, what would be Miilech if you could have time to learn a blood Gemara? He doesn't have the time to have a blood Gemara, but at least a few Shiras Gemara. A day can't pass by without learning Vagisa B'Yoyim V'Loilu, a few Shiras Gemara. This giant, the Marik, even by him, a little bit Vatir Reishis Mamlachtoi Bavli. You want to be a Eved Hashem, Mamlech upon yourself Hashem, it has to be with the Talmud Bavli, a Shtikele Gemara. I once heard of someone, he said that there's a Mile in Dafa Yoimi more than an Omet Yoimi. Why? He said because sometimes people arrive to the Shir and they're very tired after a very busy day. So the Badafa Yoimi, at least once in the middle of the Shir, if he sleeps, the friend gives him a tap. You have to, how do you call it? You have to turn over the daf. So at least he wakes up for a minute and but by Umad Yoimi you could sleep through the whole Shir. So that's not such a gewaldige Sache. But usually people don't come tired, but even if you are tired, you should come. Chap whatever you could, even if you are going to be able to participate in a few shiras, and you know you're going to drip off afterwards. But at least how much you could, you should chap a rhyme, because every word in Gemara is gewaldig.
The Rebbe in Chicago, he says, Bereshis Bar Elokim is Rosh Hashanah's Baba.
Baba.
Hashem created the world for the Babas. For Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra, that's how Hashem created the world.
Very nice. Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra. Yeah. Now, before we said that about the measurements of the taiva, I think that the Maharal Miprag, he refers to the measurements of the taiva without the amma. He only refers to the big, and he says that taiva refers to the loshoin, because shein is the length, nian is the width, and the height is lamed. That's loshoin. Even the loshoin we write with a vav, but the reason why we write the vav is because of the choilem. Lashoin, we should know that it's a choilem, but the shoyre should only lamed shianian, because the taiva, the Baal Shem Tov quotes it a lot. The taiva refers to the words. Every person with his words of Torah and Tefillah, that's the taiva. Tzoyer tasela taiva. You have to light up your words when you learn, when you daven, and that's the lashon. Our tongue creates the taiva, and that's what we need in order to stay, because the taiva is matzl from the whole mabel that's going around. The mayim azedoinim. If you are in the taiva, you're, how do you call it? Shield. You're shielded. Yeah, you're being nitzl from all of the. Even more than that, the Gemara quotes in the end of Zvuchim that the Re'im, how was the Re'im possible to go into the taiva? The Re'im is a giant balchai, a creature. So what does the Gemara say? That they koisher, how do you say in English? That they tied. They tied the Ra'im to the taiva, and the nose of the Ra'im was by the chaloin of the taiva, and that's how he stayed alive. That's what the Gemara says. Now it's interesting, but the Ra'im was outside, So we see from here, if in the Teva there is Atzola, whoever was able to be inside the whole time, Atoiv Emanur. But even if you can't, you don't have the ability to be in the Taiva the whole time, but at least your nose, you could breathe the Taiva. That means you inhale the atmosphere of the Taiva. That's also enough, even if you're outside. You have the time that you come to shul every day, the Taivas of Tefillah, the Taivas of Torah. You have to take that with yourself and inhale the whole day, even though you're outside, and that could be the Atzola. That's the Loshoin. That's the Taiva. Tzoyer Tasala Taiva. I'm going to finish with a nice word. It says this week in the Parashat, after Noach came out from the Taiva and he planted a kerem. He planted the kerem and he got drunk. It wasn't too gewaldig the matzav over there. It says in Pasuk like this. Vayochel Noach ishu adomo. Rashi says he made himself chilim. He became cheap. He made himself chulin. Why? Vayita kerem. The first thing that he did when he came out, he was neteya kerem. He hadn't had wine for a long time. And what happened? Vayesht min ayayin, vayishkor. He became shikir. And vayizgal b'toicha holo. He was opened. And the pasuk says that Chom came and he told this to his other two brothers, Shem and Yefes. And the pasuk says like this: Vayikach Shem v'Yefes es asimlo. They took together a simlo and they put it on their shoulders and they went backwards. Vayelchu achoranis, and they covered up the father. Rashi says like this: why does it say Vayikach? Why doesn't it say Vayikchu? Vayikach Shem v'Yefes. There were two brothers. It should have said Vayikchu. Rashi says Shem nis ametz b'mitzvah yoise. He was the one that strengthened himself. He did it with more amtzis, more than Yefes. That's why his children of Shem were zoiche to Tala Shal Mitzvah, and Yefes, his children were zoiche to Kvure. And Rashi brings a pasuk on that. Now, what's the pshat that Shem was nis ametz yoise? What's the biggest amtzis? What's the big strengthening that you need in order to take a simlo, put it on your shoulder and cover your father? It's the biggest amtzis. So Pashtus will learn that Shem was the one that started it, and Yefes was a nigrar. He was only, Shem went, so Yefes went along with him. He was a nigrar. But there's a deeper pshat to this. What was the reason why they did it? Yefes had a very poshet machshava. He heard from Chom that the father is open, so he went. It's not nice. It's not nice. Gashmi is the gezach. It's not nice. So we have to cover the father. Shem went deeper than that. It's not nice in the kedusha. It's not good. And that was his machshove while he went to cover the father. So his ametz means he had a deeper machshove, a deeper kavona why he did it. And that's why the schar is also similar, midde kneged midde. You ever said the machshove, it's not nice? It's also not nice a person that dies, he should be around and no one should bury him. So he buried him. Shem had a deeper machshove of a kavona, of a kedusha. That's why he was oiche to the Tala Shal Mitzvah, that the tzitzis brings the other person, the gewaldige kedushas. Everybody was oiche to get his schar midde kneged midde. According to what his machshove was, that was what he got back in return for his schar. He got also back midde kneged midde. So we should all be zoiche to all ashpues toives. We should have a healthy winter, and a git gebencht yom mit alles gits.
Amen.